All right, we're live. Welcome back to another episode of Krewechats. My name is Joe Reitz, and we'll get into our housekeeping items in a moment, but what we're going to talk about today is kind of a continuation of the last episode, which was now actually 3 weeks ago, and talking about just marketing strategy in 2017. What does it look like? What does a best practice approach look like? How do we approach it as Marketo or marketing professionals and Marketo experts? But yeah, so diving into our housekeeping items first. If you missed any of the previous episodes, please feel free to subscribe to this channel and also check out the Marketo community. English is hard today, guys. Which will also be coming public, I think, in the next couple of weeks. So keep an eye out for that. If you're not a Marketo user, you'll be able to kind of poke around there and kind of see what's going on in the marketing nation.
I kind of think it might be public now.
Is it really?
Yeah, because
it's public now.
I accidentally navigated to it and not logged in this morning, and there it was. So go view the community, general public, world at large.
You'll see that the crew has taken it over, and yeah. But cool. Well, I didn't know that. If you have any questions during this episode, you can tweet at us using the hashtag Krewechats. That's with a K, as if you've ever been to Mardi Gras before. And we're on Twitter too, so look us up there, look us up on LinkedIn, whatever. But yeah, so we'll go through a quick round of intros. Like I said, my name is Joe Reitz. I'm a strategist at Fathom, and our fun fact for the week is, what was your first job that required paying taxes? So mine was I worked at a hardware store. Yeah. And Jen, why don't you go next?
Okay. Hey guys, I'm Jen DiMaria. I'm a marketing automation consultant for Red Engine Marketing. And my first job that actually I had to pay taxes for was working in an ice cream shop. I make really good milkshakes.
Go ahead, Jules.
Hi, so my name's Julie James, Assistant Professor of Marketing at St Edward's University. My first job, I was actually an electronic engineering apprentice for Cosworth, so I used to play with cars when I was 16.
Well, damn, make us all look bad.
Sorry, that was my first tax-paying job when I left school, 16.
That's amazing.
Long time ago.
I guess I will go next. My name is Sydney Mulligan. I also go by Smugs. I'm a senior marketing operations analyst at Freesia. My first job was a sales associate at Aerie by American Eagle Outfitters, which the gentleman may not be familiar with, but it was a store at the outlet mall near my parents' house in high school. And I actually worked there for 5 years.
I always think it's so interesting, just like randomly where people started and then like where their careers went from there. Like, none of us are in retail now. I'm just going to lay that one out there. Anyway,
Or engineering.
Yeah, well, I think your job was way cooler than mine. I mixed paint and make your jokes about smelling it too. But anyway, so where we left off last time was talking through kind of like so we covered off on what elements of strategy each of us own in our respective roles and in our previous roles in our career. And we talked a little bit about our process and approach to strategy. Where we started to kind of end last time was like, how and when do you involve other people? So how do you basically make the thing in your head shareable, spreadable, and adopted? So yeah, I'm just gonna leave it wide open there and let you guys respond.
I think it's important to have like enough of an understanding of what you want to do that you can present it to someone else clearly, but not let it be so late in the design process that it's too late to make changes or anything like that. So I would like make sure you have a good roadmap and a good idea of what you want to implement, so that you can articulate it clearly to someone else, another stakeholder, someone else that might need to be involved, but not so far along that you're married to every single aspect of it, or if someone tells you this is a terrible idea all around, that you're going to be heartbroken.
I think, yeah, I'm the same. I've always, at the point where I can coherently tell someone what I'm trying to do, because we all know in our brains when we try and write down either maps or brainstorms or lists of bullet points, they only make sense to me. They don't make sense to anyone else. So until I can coherently tell someone what I'm trying to do, as soon as I get to the point where I can say to anyone, this is what I think we need to do, then I will always get everyone else involved. That's mine.
I've had clients guilty of this, and I've had my own personal brand side experience guilty of this. But something that I always tend to see, or not always, but usually tend to see, is like, especially like if we think about this in terms of like building a model of any kind, whatever it is, scoring, RCM, whatever. There's almost always going to be stakeholders outside of just like you. And I'm thinking specifically of an example on recently of like, if you're building a buyer's journey, for example, and like you don't involve sales, we're going to go down this avenue of, we've built the thing, we think the thing works, and then we spend all this time building the thing, and then the thing isn't really aligned with any kind of business objectives or just the business as a whole, because we had a very is myopic the right word? A very too focused, too close to it kind of strategic development, and there was no understanding of other people, other roles, other processes, and then the learning there is that you can't build the right thing. But yeah, so I mean that's where, when you guys say like early and often, I think that's what resonates with me.
Yeah, I think sales is a great example of someone that usually needs to be involved early and often. Typically, not to make a gross generalization, but they like to feel a lot of ownership over something if they're going to be excited about adopting it. So if you involve them early and often, they're more excited about actually using it. Well,
and that's, yes, and that's a fantastic point, and something I was actually talking to someone today about is like, so anything we do from a marketing standpoint and talking to sales, like sales is very, very cognizant of their value to the company and the impact they make on revenue, because they see it on their commission checks. So anything that we do is going to be asking that asks them to change a process, like, I don't know, accept a marketing qualified lead or reject it. Like, well, why do I care what you're doing from a scoring model perspective when I can just do what I'm doing and still make the money I'm making? As a salesperson, marketing had no empathy for what their needs were. They didn't create the value for them. So I've seen it fail in that way, but I've seen it on the other end of like, you involve the salesperson in it and you explain to them why the process change is, because generally it's going to be something like, you have a scoring model now. If you buy into this process change, which by the way is like 3 clicks, so quit whining. But if you buy into this process change, I'm going to be able to, over time, tweak the model so that the leads I am passing over are more likely ready for a sales conversation, are more likely to convert. And then that revenue check or that commission check that you already know the value of, I can help you make it bigger. But you got to work with me a little bit. And that's really the crux of sales and marketing alignment, not to go down that rabbit hole.
Hey, Andy, what was your first job?
Hi. I worked at Emo's Pizza in St. Louis, and I think that's just St. Louis. Right?
What kind of pizza is it? This is very important.
Okay, it's the best kind of pizza. First of all, Chicago. It is on a cracker, and that is how I like my pizza. I like it on a cracker with provolone cheese, and it's so delicious. So I do not want to hear it.
No. I am not going to defend Chicago pizza. That is a casserole. That is not. No. But I like the floppy, foldable New York style, and I wish Dory was here to back.
Joe, they gonna let you live there now, Mo.
I'm in the burbs. It's kind of like it's the wild country out here.
I accept all pizza of all kinds. I love them all. But that was my first job, Emo's, making pizzas.
So, Andy, just to catch you up, 1, sorry I missed you. I didn't see the thumbnail pop in. 2, we were talking about, how and when do you involve other people in your as you're developing marketing strategy?
Cool. Did you want me to jump in on that already? How far along are you guys?
That's
I was just
as far as we
enjoying
got.
watching the awkward silence unfold. No, yeah, I mean, absolutely. If you want to weigh in, feel free.
Okay, cool. I'm going to go ahead and say at the very beginning, you bring in sales as soon as possible. One thing I really love to do is jump into any sales meeting that I can to get their input for any marketing strategies that we have. Because I know that marketing is not just like a support type of team to sales, that we also spearhead branding and all of that. But just involving sales as much as possible. Does that help?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Joe's got Tango as well.
Yeah.
Got it.
Well, it's funny that we all immediately went to sales because like we've all burned ourselves with our sales organizations at some point or seen it happen where like you didn't involve them. They didn't have the accountability that either they weren't informed, but they had accountability, and like it gets messy if you don't handle it right, you know?
It's the cautionary tale of marketing.
Well, let me tell you another cautionary tale about involving sales. They don't want to be too involved. They want to be involved enough. But if you involve them too much, they get angry because you're pulling them off the phones. Also a little cautionary tale there.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have a slide on this that I think is hilarious for Summit, but the stop guy. The just the idea of like they have a totally different focus than we do. Like they are very motivated by winning, and so are we as marketers, but like
the wins are different.
Yeah, I mean it's different stakes. Like what's winning for us? Like showing revenue, and like we don't live like there's stability in our compensation generally, right? Like you're not as hungry, or I don't know how to say it, but like you don't have the same
So this was writing on it.
the what?
It's your livelihood, making that sale.
Yeah, I mean like it's your income's directly tied to what you do on a day-to-day basis. I mean, granted, not that ours isn't, but I mean like it's just a different mindset. And you know, you kind of have to, like everything else, empathy is everything. And whether it's sales, because that's who we as marketers have as a primary internal customer, or whoever else, or whatever else you're designing, I think the one good guiding light in general is just whoever that customer is, internal or like an actual customer, they need to be the focus of like what is guiding the justification for doing anything in any strategy.
That sounds about right. And also, I mean, we always talk about sales has to be involved, but it's everyone else that we have to get involved as well. I mean, the one thing I always do is it's not just when I'm talking about what my strategy is going to be or what the plan's going to be. It's okay, this is what the strategy or the plan's going to be, but how am I going to report? Who do I need to report to? Who wants to see the figures? And if it's going to cost us any budget, how much money are we going to get? And do we need to justify that to the financial person? So as much as I know we're essentially there to help sales make the money, but in the long term, it's our bosses, CFOs, CMOs, CEOs, whichever chief level or senior manager level it is. As long as we can prove to them that we're bringing in revenue and the reports that we're doing and the results that we've promised we'll get, I think strategy is win-win at that point. That's my 2 pennies.
At what point do you like when you're developing any kind of strategy? How do you factor in reporting to how you do it? Like, do you build the thing? Like, what am I trying to ask? Like, do you try to go about strategy in a way that it pretty much builds its own report, or like what guides you there as far as like measuring?
Yeah, I typically end up building things because of a reporting request. Like, we have a requirement to report on this. How can we get there? And then back it out to, well, this is how we can structure things so that we can report on that. But reporting is a very, very central part of how I design things and the requests that I get. But that could just be my company.
So do you guys start, like, what's the whole strategic process look like? Like, here's the goal we want to hit, or the business objective we want to hit. Here's the goal that's going to that's going to support us getting there, and then here's the specific KPI for whether or not we achieve said goal? Or is it something different?
For anything I've done with the whole strategy, where do you want to go and how you're going to get there thing, it's always been, this is our goal or / objective. This is what we think we're going to get out of it, and we can show that in the reporting that we can build. And then, okay, so what we're going to do to get those results that we need to get. That's the way I've always done it, because if we have where we want to go, how we're going to get there, and these are the tactics. I use that sentence all the time when I talk about strategy, because people just don't realize the difference between what's strategic, what's tactical. Mm-hmm. And if you don't tell them the difference, they think that if you're coming to them with a plan, it's okay, this is what I'm going to do, not why are we doing this. So yeah, that's my bit. Anyone else?
Well,
go ahead, Andy.
No, you're good. I'll take it after you.
All right.
Go like that.
All right. You know, what I usually do, you know, in addition to showing them, you know, what I want to do, it's really explaining the problem to people, because I've gone to sales, for example. I'm sorry, sales, you're an easy target. Going to sales and saying, as a marketing person, I'm having this problem, and I kind of turned it around to put it on them a little bit so they would help me. So for example, I had a sales team who loved doing trade shows. It was trade show after trade show after trade show. I was sinking tons of money and my time into it, but I couldn't report on it because they weren't updating campaign statuses and whatnot in Salesforce. So I basically had to threaten them with taking the trade shows away. And when that happened, they were more than willing to work with me on coming up with a way that we could more accurately report on trade show successes so they could get more, because they really like doing those. So that worked.
Strategy by fear, then.
That's how I operate my life.
Threatening, no big deal.
Yeah.
It's important, just like children, for them to see the consequences of their actions very quickly and clearly.
Right, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, where's Andy?
Through our document. Okay, so one thing we're doing right now at our company is just is revisiting what our strategy is, and it's so obviously on brand side, but we are in the middle of a strategy and planning one out for the next year. And so when you already have a fully stacked team that's ramped, what do you do when you're trying to create a new marketing strategy with all of those people, and how do you segment them into groups in your marketing team? That's what we're trying to figure out now. So right now, what we've done is gone back to basics and just said, how do we want our company to be viewed? In the very beginning, we want to be viewed as thought leaders. We want to court them through the process of the sales process, and then we want to create partnership. And so in that, like, very, very top level, then creating the small groups within it, and then through that, like where people are placed and how they can help with each part of that process of the lead life cycle. And because the way that we are now, we're strictly inbound. We have an attract team, we have a convert team, and a close team. We're trying to figure out how that works with going all the way to the client and trying to get referrals also, because that stopped us with like going down into the sales process. Targets are really what silo us into being a part of a full holistic marketing and sales marketing structure, because our targets are only up into like an ops. And so when an SDR opens an ops, that's when we're done. That's what our successive measure is. And so we're trying to get away from that. And because of that, we're restructuring our team. So I don't know if that's helpful, but that's what we're going through right now.
So like, no, that's super helpful. Like, and with that, so do you guys, like what's kind of typical for everyone on the line? Like, do you measure, like, what is marketing's key responsibility? Because like I've seen in a lot of organizations it just being an MQL number, which I feel like everyone's starting to realize that's kind of short-sighted, because marketing doesn't just stop when you throw something over a wall. But like, what do you guys deal with as your measurable? Is it a pipeline number? Is it an actual revenue influence number?
So I'll start with that because I was the one who kind of brought that in. Ours is lead generation and MQLs, and that's it.
So does anything happen at Biz Library after MQL?
No. Well, for marketing, no. That's something that I'd like to bring into our nurturing processes. Once we have sales, like we're involved in the sales process, putting in actual statuses so we can be involved in, you know, if they have XYZ filled out and they're at this status, we start sending them targeted content.
Yeah. Well, and that's exactly what I was going to say is like, I've got a couple clients right now, one that actually is starting to do that where they pass threshold, they get added to something bottom of funnel that's a specific nurture around, hey, this is a big B2B, you're in an RFP process. While you're in that RFP process, we know it's this long, so we know we need this many messages. Here's some salient points you might want to bring up with your sales rep, and then make them stand out that much better in the RFP. Whereas there's another person that realizes they want to do it because the way the research works, like with the buyer journey, you don't always know that they're ready to buy until they're like they start binging on your content and they pop as an MQL within like a month, but it's like they've been researching for longer than that. But yeah, I don't know. I think that's a really cool place to go is like going. It's kind of like the follow through is what I think of it as is like, you know, I've been in many organizations where we created a boatload of MQLs, but there was no accountability for whatever happened to them. And I guess like, how do you guys measure that now? Like, is there anything you do to look at the sales acceptance rate or of MQL specifically? And is marketing held accountable to any figure there?
I personally, at my last job when I was like entirely responsible for it, I kept track of what sales, you know, viewed as a qualified lead. So I had that, but I was more measuring, I think, the number of opportunities and the opportunity value, as well as retention. Because like you said, it doesn't necessarily stop, you know, once we lob it over the fence to sales to do what they want to do. Even like once people became a customer, I viewed that as my role to keep them engaged as well. But as far as, you know, if it's somebody new coming to us, I really tried to focus on when I was running reports. If I ran anything, I always tried to tie it to the number of opportunities and the value associated with them, and increasing that average over usually quarter over quarter, and then looking at it year over year as well.
Yeah, we kind of do the same thing where we're at least moving towards looking more at opportunities that are influenced by marketing and pipeline influenced by marketing. I wouldn't go as far as to say that we're 100% bought into that metric, but it's definitely something we're moving towards looking at. We've kind of moved away looking at MQLs really at all. I think that we kind of operate a little bit differently. There's not really a wall that we throw things over. We all just swim in one big happy pool together. Market to staff and sales calls people, and it's great. And as far as MQLs, like we just do request sales follow-up as our only MQL metric. We don't do like a score threshold, which is just, you know, one way of doing things. But that's why we all swim in one big happy pool together too. Because our salespeople are still calling on people who are the most engaged with our marketing. Like they're still looking at lead score as a metric of who they're calling next. But because of that, there's, you know, maybe less marketing touches before someone becomes an opportunity because sales involved in the process a little earlier. And that's why we started looking at we stopped doing scored MQLs, and we stopped doing just requested sales follow-up MQLs. There's only so much you can do to control that behavior. But marketing influence and opportunities has been a pretty good metric for us.
In just quickly, in both the roles that I've been in, both Mitel and Cornerstone, we actually did marketing influence cash based on open revenue, open opportunities, closed opportunities. So we went the whole way in both companies, from what is an MQL, pass through to sales, and then tracked what opportunities got opened and then what opportunities got closed. And then we had a thing called Magic Robot, which was built into Salesforce. which then generates how much of that revenue from the campaign, or how much the campaign cost has influenced the revenue of the open or closed opportunities. So we could actually provide reports that said how much marketing revenue cash we had influenced.
Yeah.
Which was, it was amazing.
Yeah, I feel like that's always and so few people do that, I feel like, but that's like the most effective way to say, like, if you've set up your marketing automation program right, and you've architected everything in a way conducive to reporting, and whatever your strategy is that's following the lead throughout their research and buying process. I mean, that's the be all end all to me. But
yeah, and to be fair, if anyone ever uses Salesforce, I'm sure most of you use Salesforce, this thing called Magic Robot is what did a lot of that for us. It was a great tool. It's like an integration application add-in from the App Exchange.
It's called Magic Robot?
A Magic Robot. Yeah, and you can actually work.
Product ever.
I know, it is a little robot head as an icon as well.
Maybe they should make like Magic Unicorn Robot next.
That would be
2.0.
Look at Jen's face. But it was a great tool, and it works out your marketing influence cash. So if anyone, was a good tip.
So, wow, we can kill a ton of time talking strategy. The last couple things we were going to touch on was just a little more tactical related of like, so you create a vision. What tools do you use to socialize it and make it clear to other people? Crickets, really, guys?
Anything that makes a flow chart is always a good thing in my book. And there are a ton of programs that do it. So whatever I had available to me at whatever company I had, that's what I used. And they were just great. It's like taking a whiteboard and formalizing it.
I probably, and I know Adobe would probably cringe if they heard me say this, but I probably just use Illustrator horribly to do that, because it's easy, and coming from like the creative backgrounds that like someone like me or Jen has, it's a super easy tool. But on the agency side, what I've always found, because like maybe this is somewhere you and I have to live more, Jen, but like I've always found doing something in like a service, like you said, a flowchart service like Gliffy, or there's a couple other ones.
Gliffy's amazing.
There's a new app for iPhone too. I think it's called like Brainstorm or something, and it's just straight up just plopping ideas in and just kind of getting it down to a place where you can have something to chat about with people other than just ideas floating around.
Yeah, and if you've got like a touch PC or an iPad, Made with Paper is a phenomenal app just for getting that stuff out. And then I love whiteboarding. Like if I can have a meeting with someone and just kind of like not come in prepared and just draw it on a whiteboard, I love the idea of, if I can draw it on a whiteboard, I can make it happen in Marketo. Like there is a way, but let's just get the ideas down. And then like the marketer professional version of write drunk, edit sober, except, don't do it drunk, but same idea. Like get the ideas out, and you can. I mean, I'm not judging.
Just depends on your company's culture.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And if it's Friday afternoon.
Right. I feel super lame because I mostly just use Excel and PowerPoint. And I draw things on whiteboards and then take pictures of them and email them to people. Keeping it
use Gliffy. Gliffy is amazing for flowcharts.
I've learned something today. I'm very.
I feel like it was crickets because I was like, PowerPoint, pictures.
I think that's okay though. Like PowerPoint, yeah. I mean, like even if you do it in Gliffy or Illustrator, guess what? You still put it in to show it to somebody.
Always PowerPoint. PowerPoint for life.
I use Lucid Chart. I haven't really looked at the other ones, but
Lucid Chart's great. Love it.
All right, so the last thing with 1 minute left. So we had this whole point about like knowing your MarTech, your tech stack, and like what it can do and what you're using it for. So does anyone know the question we're actually trying to ask here?
So let me give you the answer that I thought we were trying to ask, and we'll see if this was close. So lots of companies have like lots of different technology, right? And any change you make often seems like well, if I make this change, this is going to impact marketing in this way and sales in this way, and that's probably pretty much it. But because there's so many moving pieces, especially in very large organizations, I think, and I've seen this happen at the company I'm at now and at my previous company, it is so important to have someone who owns your technology stack. So we have a person now who, you know, I have lots of awesome ideas and I get tons of sales emails from lots of B2B marketing technology companies. They're like, hey, please buy our product. We're going to help you with revenue attribution and all this different stuff that you want to do, blah, 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 blah. So when I get really excited about something, I have to go to Kathy and say, Kathy, look at this tool. It's going to change everything. And she says, well, it'll impact this part of our business and this part of our business and this part of our business. And it's actually really similar to another tool that we already have. So we should evaluate your requirements and see. So my point in saying all that is, don't live in a silo. It's important to have someone who knows all the different technology that you use and how changes you make impact other parts of the business that you don't work as closely with. I don't even know if that was the question we're asking. No, you can't have Kathy. She's my Kathy.
Yeah. Back up. Your own Kathy.
Very nice Canadian woman, and I'm keeping her.
That sounds so awful. If no one heard the rest of this, she's a very nice Canadian woman. She's mine.
I'm glad Smug said the creepy thing this time. I think I made it through a whole episode.
Had to take that burden off your shoulders, Jeff.
We're still live, so there's still time.
It takes a village. Well, I think that's all the time we've got for this week. This has been another episode of Marketo Fu, not Marketo Fu. Not Marketo.
How dare you?
Shameless plug.
Just I quit. I'm done.
Krewechats.
It's Friday, and I think there's a post-show happy hour. So, thank you for joining Krewechats. We will see you next time.
Bye.